Hello everyone and welcome back to another Star Wars figure review. Today I've got a really cool figure to give you a look at, and that is this one here. This is Kanan Jarrus in Stormtrooper disguise from Star Wars Rebels. Now I know what you're thinking, this is a really old figure, why are you only just reviewing it now? Well, to tell you the truth, I forgot I had this one in my collection. It wasn't until recently where I was reorganising my collection, having a little bit of a tidy up, that I realised that this guy was sitting at the back of one of my shelves, and I noticed that I still had the packaging for it, so I thought I'd dig it out for a review. The figure itself is really cool. It was released during the first wave of figures from Rogue One, so with that being said, it's going to be pretty tricky to track down at retail. Obviously the Rogue One line is slowly but surely disappearing from store shelves in order to make room for products from The Last Jedi, and with that being said, this figure is very difficult to find. He was, I think, packed one per case during his initial release, so it was hard to find when he was first made available, but even more so now. If you do find this one out in the wild, I highly recommend you add it to your collection. It's a really cool figure, especially if you're a fan of Star Wars Rebels, and as always there's a link down below in the video description where you can order this figure online if you wish. It is currently in stock and available to buy at staractionfigures.co.uk, so don't hesitate, grab this figure while you can. So I'm going to take a look at this one in a little bit more detail in just a little bit, but before we do, as always, let's get a look at the packaging that he comes in. Once again, we do get the standard Rogue One packaging design with this figure. You've got the Death Trooper brand image featured in the top corner, the Star Wars logo just off to the side, and some very cool artwork of Kanan in Stormtrooper disguise on the side of the box. On the front of the bubble there, you've got an image of the play feature that's included with Kanan, and in this instance it's a sort of firing force blast mechanism. More on that in just a bit. And then on the back you've got a brief description of the character as well as a rundown of the Studio FX app. Now this figure is based on one of Kanan's appearances in Star Wars Rebels, of course. I forget the name of the episode off the top of my head, although it is an episode in which Kanan and Captain Rex disguise themselves as Imperial Stormtroopers, and I seem to remember Captain Rex making a passing comment about how the armour doesn't quite fit him and he preferred the old Clone Trooper armour, which was quite funny. Again, I can't remember the name of the episode, I've only seen it once, so for those of you out there that are huge fans of Star Wars Rebels and binge watch that series, be sure to leave me a comment down below and let me know the name of the episode. So there we go, that is the packaging that this figure comes in. Now let's take a look at the figure itself. Now we'll run through articulation with this guy first, and then we'll touch base on some of the details and the articulation that he has, as he is packed to the brim with accessories and really cool features. So first and foremost, he does feature, of course, a ball joint at the head. He has swivels at the shoulders and swivels at the hips. Nothing too exciting going on in terms of articulation. He is, of course, a part of the modern day 3 3/4 inch line, which, you know, 5 POA has become the norm in many ways. Not to be sniffed at, you know, the figure itself looks really cool, and as I've said in a number of reviews in the past, articulation really doesn't bother me too much as long as the figure looks good, and this one definitely does. In terms of accessories, Kanan comes with obviously his trademark lightsaber, which has a really nice sculpt on the hilt. He comes with a standard E11 Stormtrooper rifle. He does of course feature a removable helmet and also a removable shoulder pauldron as well. Now the helmet is a decent sculpt, but the paint applications are a little bit sloppy, at least on my sample. I did, when I purchased this figure, see a couple of them on shelf, and some of them were better than others. Some of them look really bad, really wonky eyes and just awful paint applications on the helmet itself. So if you do see this one out in stores and you get an opportunity to look through a couple of them, make sure you pick the one that's got the best paint apps. Now, the helmet itself can of course be removed. It's made of a very soft rubbery plastic, and so it's a nice snug fit around Kanan's head, and the head sculpt underneath is brand new to this figure. This particular figure itself is completely new from head to toe, in fact. It did surprise me to learn that this figure wasn't just a kit bash and it used recycled parts from previous Imperial Stormtrooper figures from Star Wars Rebels. Again, the head sculpt is brand new, as is the body of the figure, which is really, really good. Obviously, Kanan is a taller character, and that's reflected in this figure. The head sculpt is really nice. Once again, it's brand new, and it captures more of an expression in Kanan's face. Some of the other figures that we've seen of this character, the facial sculpt is just very generic. He's just sort of glancing off into space. No emotion, nothing. Whereas this figure is very nice. It's got a sort of a sneer or a sort of an angry smirk. It's a weird expression. The paint applications are nice and crisp, and the head sculpt, in my opinion, is the best Kanan head sculpt that we've seen from Hasbro so far. Now, in addition to the lightsaber, blaster and removable helmet, as I mentioned at the beginning of the review, this figure does come with a firing force blast mechanism. This is very reminiscent of the sort of gimmicks and action features that we've seen throughout the Force Awakens and Rogue One lines. It's a little bit cheesy, very impractical, and I can't remember any Jedi Knight who's ever had to use a mechanism or some sort of gadget to use the Force. So obviously this is created for toy purposes. This is definitely for the kids. I can imagine some kids are going to like this. Personally, it's not to my taste, although it does fill me with nostalgia, as it is very, very similar and very reminiscent to the firing force blast mechanisms we saw with figures from the Clone Wars animated line, which was an awesome collection of figures, and despite questionable accessories, I really, really miss it. This particular accessory, as you can see, features a force disc at the front. You press the lever at the back and that goes firing out, and the gadget itself is a gauntlet sort of feature that just clips onto Kanan's wrist. Now, I do have some major difficulty trying to get the hand around the handle. It can be quite a fiddly job to do. To be honest, I'm not entirely sure which hand it's supposed to go on, but you get the sort of general idea from that, how this feature is supposed to work. Again, it's a very fiddly thing to do, to try and get the hand around the handle of the force blast mechanism, but I'm not going to do it now due to time constraints, of course. And there it goes. Unless you get the grip into the hand, you know, it's very loose, and it's not something that I'm really interested in. So, you know, the less said about that, the better. But the figure itself, as I mentioned, very, very cool indeed, and definitely a figure that I'd recommend tracking down. Again, it's readily available via staractionfigures.co.uk. So again, there's a link down below if you want to purchase this guy online. Alternatively, again, if you find this one out in the wild, in stores, grab him while you can. He's a worthy addition to the collection, and again, with the products from The Last Jedi looming, he's definitely not going to hang around on pegs for long. So that's going to do it for this review on Kanan Jarrus, once again in Stormtrooper disguise. It's almost an unwritten rule in Star Wars that our main heroes have to wear Imperial disguises at some point, and obviously this character and this figure is no exception. So it's really cool to see that trend continue. Anyway, that's going to do it for this review. I really hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll be back with some more reviews very soon. I've got some really cool stuff to give you a look at over the coming weeks. Obviously all the products from The Last Jedi are on the way, so stay tuned for those. And until next time, as always, thank you for watching, keep collecting, and may the Force be with you.